Hugh Freeze highlighted something at his press conference on Monday that all Auburn fans need to keep in mind.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Charlie Tuesday. We're joined by Auburn message board legend, the Charlie 5, also known as Kyle Rush, over at thebarnauburn.com. Subscribe today. You can find my stuff over there as well. I want to talk about some recruiting updates because, let's just, there were some big games that happened and there were some recruits visiting that Auburn has targeted elsewhere. What this weekend meant across college football for Auburn, you and I have some differing opinions on that, but Hugh Freeze met with the media yesterday for his regularly weekly scheduled press conference. And one thing that he said in talking about, we've got these young guys. And he mentioned Jay Crawford, Demarcus, Riddick, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson by name. And he said, look, you need to be able to go to these guys and say, hey, these are the 5 guys that you're looking at each and every day. And he kind of hinted, it's like, I don't know if we really have that. I don't know if we really have that many guys that these young guys need to be watching every day, but we will soon. And to me, that's eye-opening that he's just saying that. But once again, I'm never going to criticize him for being honest. That will not happen on this show. I'm just surprised by that when we've heard so many good things about leadership ever since he's been here.
Yeah, but I'm honestly, who are the leaders? I'm really thinking,
great question.
Who is the leader?
Going into the season, it would have been, we would have said Eugene Asante. Yeah. We would have said Peyton, just nature of the position and going to media days.
Luke Deal, maybe. Who are the guys?
Sure.
Who's the guy that you're like, okay, I'm going to look to this guy in a tight spot because I know he's going to make a play. I don't know that there is an older guy that you can really point to. It seems like on defense, heck, that might be Caleb Harris or
yeah. I'm hearing a lot about Malik Blockton, how vocal he is
on offense. You obviously got Keandre Lambert-Smith, but how vocal is he? Is he really I know he's sort of tutoring and mentoring the younger receivers, but is he just like the vocal leader to rally the troops on offense? I just don't really know who.
It kind of sounds like it's Malcolm Simmons and Connor Liu based off of folks that I've talked to as far as leaders. And, Connor's not a freshman, but he's a true sophomore. He's as close as you can get. And so that was kind of wild to me that he just kind of said that publicly.
Yeah. Look, you everybody's seen the stat. Auburn leads the SEC in combined true freshman offensive and defensive snaps, and then they lead the country in true freshman defensive snaps. So they're obviously playing a lot of young guys because, hey, maybe that answers your question. Maybe there's not a lot of older guys right now, and there is that gap in the roster. It is basically like freshmen and sophomores, and then there's a gap, and then you have seniors. So and a lot of those seniors are guys that are brought in from elsewhere. So
for the most part,
you don't really have that four cycles of players in. So I can see where he's coming from.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's a little disappointing, Kyle. It's a little disappointing when you look at some of these upperclassmen and, especially guys who chose to come back for their final year of eligibility. Maybe some of these guys got an extra year because of, just the nature of eligibility in college football right now. But I just kind of expected more out of Eugene Asante this year. I expected more out of several of these upperclassmen, like Philip Bleedy coming in and Gage Keys and Trill Carter. We heard all of these upperclassmen. Austin Keys is another one. And it's I almost think we're getting more out of Dorian Mausi than some of these guys at the linebacker spot from a leadership standpoint and really production standpoint too. Mausi's probably been the best linebacker outside of Riddick this year. And it's frustrating now But when Hugh Freeze says all this stuff that a lot of Auburn fans roll their eyes at about like it's coming, we're building this the right way. It's like when you really look at what he's saying and what's happening on the field from a production standpoint or a snap count standpoint, like, I mean, I think he's telling the truth.
Well, look no further than Ole Miss. Let's go to Ole Miss. Who's the guy that their whole roster, over 70% of their roster is basically portal guy. Like it's a huge roster of portal guys. Who do they have when things get tight that they're going to lean on to make a play? Doesn't seem like they have this. They have this sort of the same issues, and it's sort of becoming more and more clear to me that the more you bring in from the outside versus what you've built throughout the high school ranks, it seems like you're going to lack that leadership, that go-to guy, because it's new guys coming in and out. You're an NFL guy. What teams have the most success? Teams that try to go super team and load up through free agency, or teams that, build through the draft and have a solid foundation, solid culture? You tell. I mean, you're more of an NFL.
Yeah, no, it's the homegrown team. I mean, every few years there's this team that goes out and gets all these free agents, but they rarely, seldom pan out, or they may make the playoffs, but they're not built like a championship team. And that's exactly that's exactly what Hugh Freeze is pitching. And look, the portal's still new. And so like we all saw what Lane Kiffin was doing. And I think we all kind of assumed that they'd have a solid chance at Ole Miss to make the playoff this year. Yeah. With losses now to LSU and Kentucky, that's tough. That's really tough when they still have Georgia on their schedule, and they'll probably need some help to get in, because I don't see them beating Georgia at this point. And so to me, it's like,
and I would say this is their most talented roster, probably that they've had since Hugh Freeze was there.
I don't think there's any debate about that. I mean, Stephen Willis of Locked On Ole Miss did a full summer's worth of this is the best roster Ole Miss has ever had, and I don't think he's wrong. But we're learning that the roster, compare this year's Auburn roster to last year's Auburn roster. This roster is better, but I think the team was better last year because they had won more games up to this point.
Sure, and this is a results business, so you got to look at the record to matter. But I believe we're playing better football now than we were last year. I'm not
disagreeing with you,
but they just won ugly. They just won ugly, and I feel like that's the step that this team's missing, is figuring out how to win ugly.
Yeah, I'm not pushing back against that at all. So he talked a ton about, the bye week came at a good time. It lined up with Auburn's fall break, which is probably ideal. That's super, super cool that happened. So they had 2 practices. They did some lifting and conditioning on another day, and then they were off Thursday and Friday. Hopefully that reset happens. But I just think it reaffirms that I can't remember an Auburn team that needs a win more than this one. As badly in a long time. It's been a long, long time, because I'm still I still don't think this team is inherently bad, to your credit. It's just maybe this restart.
Yeah, statistically they're not. It's just the numbers are just it's bad break after bad break, and some of it is poor execution, some of it's bad luck, but all of it seems to have hit in these first 6 games. So you're hoping the law of averages eventually have to work out in your favor. And you can start kind of making things happen. But I think I really do believe this, and this is not just booging, this is just being truthful. I think if you can get one win, under your belt, that you can roll. I think you can start rolling. And I think that's what this team needs, especially for young guys, to figure out how to do it and feel what it feels like. I just don't think it's going to take much longer. If you can get that one win, I think you could really start seeing this little snowball effect.
I think this defense is good enough to slow Missouri's offense down. Can they run the football? Can they control the clock? Can they take care of the football? We'll talk about that all this week for sure. But what this past weekend meant for Auburn, you and I had 2 very different responses based on the conversation we had earlier today. I want to jump into what those 2 sides are in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Hey, today's show is brought to you by Roy. Roy stands for Return on You. So far this season, we've pulled over $10,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can directly support the athletes that you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player. you choose. And the best part is it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, the exclusive content that you get through Roy, you get your money back. So it's kind of, hey, let's give some extra money to make it less appealing to enter the portal, more attractive to stay. Who should we make the Auburn Roy Player of the Week? It's a bye week, but I kind of want to shout out like a Caleb Harris, a guy who's kind of been trending up. What do you think?
You stole it from me. You stole my player.
So
I'm saying drop all the bags on Caleb Harris. He deserves it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Roy pitched in $100 and you should join him. Even $10 makes a difference. So let's give Caleb Harris some love. Don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaways. You can win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and use our referral code LOCKEDON, and you're entered. Download Roy today and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X. Just search @Roy_return-on-you for more info. Thank you for Roy for sponsoring this show. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn your first listen every single day. Kyle, you and I had 2 very different takes. I watched all the games on Saturday, and what an incredible day for college football. Great week for Auburn to have a bye week to watch them all. But I saw all these major moments and these big teams and these big brands going head-to-head with playoff implications already there with the expanded playoff. Games in October just continue to matter more and more. But you look at like the stage that was set for Oregon and Ohio State, the game and the clutchness that was involved between Ole Miss and LSU, the poise of Penn State to come back against USC on the road when these like road teams haven't done well in this new version of the Big Ten. And you just saw composure all over the place and lack of on the other side. But these big brands that we're all expecting to make the playoff. And to me, I was watching this, specifically Oregon, Ohio State. And I was like, we don't look anywhere close to that right now. And to me, it was just like, oh my goodness. Like everybody's talking about his next year, the year. And that gap after watching these games this past weekend, like it just seems wider than I wanted to feel at this point of the year.
Well, you mentioned one there that was interesting to me. You mentioned LSU and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Okay? LSU's starting quarterback was like sub 50% completion percentage and threw 2 interceptions, but he just so happened to throw a touchdown in overtime. So like, I guess that's one where I'm looking at these games, especially the SEC, and I'm thinking the SEC is so, like, I don't feel like we're that far off from being able to compete. Now, Oregon and Ohio State, whatever. I get that was a great game and all that. And Ohio State has the best roster in college football from a money perspective, basically from top to bottom. But I look at teams like Alabama, who looks beatable at home. They don't look like that they're the same Alabama that you've seen the past, 15 years. I look at Georgia, who goes out against Mississippi State, throws 2 interceptions. Carson Beck throws 2 interceptions against Mississippi State and looks hapless. I see are teams that have players. And I feel like what I see now is less domination and more parity. And I feel like Auburn is only a couple of players maybe away from being able to be a part of that. I think that you can see much bigger jumps now if you get the right player. So if you recruit like you've been recruiting and you can add you a solid quarterback in the portal next year, I do see the ability for Auburn to be able to compete. I think you're not very far off from being, 4-2 at worst. A couple of breaks go your way, but instead you're 2-4. Like I watched those games and felt like Auburn was like, I looked at the last 6 games of the schedule and I watched all those teams play and felt like Auburn can compete with all 6 of them.
Your ability to boog in the darkest of times, it's a gift. It's a gift.
You got to look past you got to look past the record and like really dig in and look how Auburn's playing as far as football goes. Like,
I just feel like we've had that conversation for years at this point.
I don't.
But I agree with you. But
last year we were terrible.
At some point we got to look at it though, and in key moments, and Hugh Freeze talked about this yesterday. Like in key moments and key plays, we just fall apart. We just have no composure whatsoever. And like you could have all this offense that puts up yards and gets you in situations to score, and a defense that overcomes an offense that turns it over a bunch against decent offenses, and they hold their own. You can have all of that. But if you don't have that innate ability to close or to capitalize on a good situation, it doesn't matter. And to me, that's bigger than these other things that we're talking about.
Yeah, and that's where I think all it's going to take, especially for all these young guys, all it's going to take is one time for them to be able to close, and then they're going. That's a huge acceleration of their their growth trajectory. You know what I mean?
Like you're totally right, because like we don't know if Cam Coleman is clutch or not, because we don't have somebody who can get him the ball in a key situation. Like, we don't know. We don't know if Perry Thompson is clutch or not. Like we have no clue.
Does Cam Coleman next year in that Georgia game as a true freshman, does he know not to run himself out of bounds on that back shoulder play against Arkansas and Cal as a sophomore when he's got a lot more experience? Does he run across the middle and two balls go off his hands? Like that? Yeah. That's a really talented kid who's playing young football. And again, the composure part of it, I get it, but I see the talent. I see the young talent, and I feel like if you can get one under your belt, if you can get a little bit of confidence, that sort of killer instinct can blossom quickly.
Yeah. If you had to pick right now, does Auburn beat Missouri on Saturday?
I said that line would open under a touchdown, and I think it's 6 points right now. So okay. I think that's a pretty accurate line. I think Auburn's going to be in this game, and I think they're going to have a chance to win.
Yeah, I do too. Let's pull up the line and see.
I think it's somewhere around 6 right now, 6 or 6.5.
It's 5.5 according to FanDuel right now.
Money's going in on Auburn. I think it opened closer to 7, and it's going towards Auburn. Missouri does not have a great run defense. No. This is kind of the point of the year last year where we rallied the troops and we said, okay, we're about to start pounding people in the face.
Right.
And you got 3 teams, I feel like, that you can do that against. Kentucky will be a little bit tougher, but you can afford to be conservative because their offense is so bad.
I agree.
And, just pound and knock out some wins. And it doesn't really matter what the style points look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all this hype is around Vandy. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but their defense is gettable. It's their offense. And I think Auburn's defense I think that was going to be personal for this group. So we'll see. But yeah, so what do you think about this weekend? Let us know in the comments down below if you're watching on YouTube, or hit us up on social media, or at thebarnauburn.com. Your thoughts of, did you agree with one of us or the other when watching the great slate of games that was this past
There were some great games. There were some really good games.
It was one of the best Saturdays of college football in a minute for me.
It really was.
Yeah, it was fun. Okay. What's the latest with a few big recruiting battles, and how did this past weekend impact where Auburn stands with some of these top guys? That's coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sportsbook. We just said it. On the show. Auburn is 5.5 point favorite. If you like Auburn's chances, Auburn plus 5.5, it's just sitting there. Sitting there. And if you're going to go that way, you might as well do it now, because that line is going more and more to this being maybe a 3.5 point thing at kickoff. We'll see.
Which would be crazy.
That would be crazy. That'd be a pretty crazy shift. And you like Auburn's chances if they do that. This is similar to what happened with Oklahoma. Auburn should have won that game. We all know how that went. Go check out our friends at FanDuel. You can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's over at FanDuel.com. A big name that I've seen a lot of Auburn fans tweeting about and posting about on boards like the Barn, Auburn.com. Naeem Offord. Oregon is very much in this, and of course he's committed to Ohio State, which those two teams played against each other. I think he was at that game.
He was
mistaken. Yeah. Does this hurt Auburn in your mind for a guy like Naeem Offord?
Let me tell you something.
Real quick for folks who don't know who Naeem Offord is. Parker corner,
#1 player in Alabama.
Yep, 5-star guy, committed to Ohio State for a long time. Auburn and Oregon are really threatening. Go ahead.
Let me tell you what, Oregon sounds awesome in October for a kid from Birmingham. Oregon sounds amazing. I'm going to go on a trip to Oregon. I'm going to go to some unbelievable games. And in October, this sounds incredible. Like Nike everywhere. Look at these uniforms. This sounds awesome. Then when I have to actually get ready to pack my bags to fly my butt 4.5 hours away from home, that's when decisions get a little bit tougher. So again, I understand he had a great visit, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but I'm going to be shocked if we're going to hear probably a lot of smoke. We're going to hear a lot of momentum going towards Oregon's way and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a shock to me if this kid from Alabama actually ends up going all the way out to Oregon. It's not impossible for a kid from Alabama to go to Oregon, but it's when the kid can choose anywhere. Typically, Oregon can come eval somebody and steal somebody away that maybe doesn't have the plethora of options that others do. But when you got a Naheem Alford who can literally pick, he could show up on signing day with no, theoretical offer anywhere, and everybody would take him. So again, I just don't see at the end of the day, the family dynamic and everything that's going on. I don't see him ending up at Oregon. It's only an 1.5-hour plane flight, if that, to Columbus. Mm-hmm. I could see that happening very easily. But at the end of the day, again, I don't think the Oregon hype is going to end up winning in the end. I could be wrong, but that's the way I see it playing out.
All right. Then Eric Winters said it was down to Georgia and Auburn. Of course, he's been committed to Auburn, but he did visit Georgia. And there's an article at auburnsports.com that said, hey, I really wanted to reassure my commitment to Auburn. And I think that's what it did. Definitely the effort on the defensive side of the ball, watching Caleb Harris, Demarcus Riddick, and all those guys ball out like Keldrick Falk, just watching that's inspiring and reassuring my commitment. It's just kind of amazing to me that the job that Freeze and staff are doing on recruiting trail is they've got these guys committed. They've got 2 wins on the year, and they can still go visit Georgia. And they're like, no, I'm good. I'm going to ride with Auburn. That's why amazing. It's amazing. That's why
I'm not saying I see what they see, because I see things obviously different than recruits, but I see that Auburn's on the I see the potential. I see the football that's being played right now, and I can totally see Eric Winters see those young guys going in and saying, "Look how they're balling out." He may be saying, "I'm better than them." And I know I can go in and play. I'm a freak athlete. I can play pretty much anywhere on the field.
Right.
If they're doing it and they're playing at a high level, and this is one of the top-ranked Auburn defenses in quite a while, and it's all freshmen. They're going to be sophomores next year, and I get to go play with them. Like, count me in, and I get to stay home. I mean, that's why I don't think we're that far off. That's why that recruitment right there and what he says, that's why I think the way I think, that we're not that far off.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what Freeze said at his presser yesterday. It's like, that's why these guys are coming here. That's why they're coming here. They want to change this.
Yep.
And I also think it's not discussed enough. I mean, we touched on it a little bit, but how close this group of guys is. Like, they all really seem to like each other. And I don't think that like, everybody wants to make it out to like, oh, well, the NIL, it's all about, just how much money these guys are making. And it's like, not really. Like, if you're paying attention to it, some sure. Let's not act like money is like a non-factor, but relationships will always matter in everything in life. I mean, how many times do you maybe have an option to have a better, high paying job, but it's like, man, I don't want to work for that piece of crap, or I don't want to go do, that kind of thing. You want to be around people that you like. And this freshman class and this rise, the class of 2025, they all seem to really, really love each other and really, really believe in this coaching staff. And we're just kind of brushing over that.
Yeah.
A ton.
Totally. Think about this. These guys that are committed. They've been committed for a long time. They've been recruited for a long time. They've been on visits together for a long time versus bringing in a bunch of guys from the portal who probably just meet for the first time when they get enrolled on campus. And there's just, so they come in with already this chemistry. They come in with already these relationships of, these are my brothers. This is who I want to fight for. These are who I want to go to battle with. It just accelerates, I guess, the culture when it's these guys. You got 27 commits right now in October. Right. Like, you got your whole class basically that's been committed for dadgum almost near a year, and they're going to step onto campus all together. It's I totally get being a part of it. That's the reason I think Deuce ended up Deuce was more closer with our commits than he was even the guys he recruited to Notre Dame. Like that, that's a special class coming up.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. So we'll see. We'll see how the staff keeps this all together, because I think they will. Hey, Kyle, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Absolutely. You can find me on thebarnauburn.com. Subscribe today for only $1 for your first month. We're killing it over there. Big recruiting updates today. A lot of the guys we talked about, some of the ones that we didn't. You can sign up today for only $1. Test it out. If you don't like it, hey, you're only out $1. The best investment you can possibly make. And then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Barn Auburn, and you got all kinds of shows. You got a Hoops podcast. You got my show every single day, the Top Button podcast. Then you got Village Vice as well, and hopefully some new stuff coming down the pipe.
Yep. And for those who don't know, Village Vice is me and Brad Law. We do a show over there 3 times a week. So for some reason you want to hear more of me, you can there. Some of y'all do, which is it's wild to me. It's wild. But thank you. We are so thankful. Yeah, thebarnauburn.com. Hey, please like the video, please subscribe, and we will see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.